Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is where we turn complicated policy into plain English and readable market signals with just enough humor to keep your macro heart rate steady. So Japan just announced a new coalition agreement between the Liberal Democratic Party and Nippon Ishin. Tonight, we'll break down what it really says, simply and clearly, and then talk about what it could mean for your wallet, for the markets, and for Japan's future. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's decode this together. The agreement starts big. Both parties say Japan faces the toughest conditions at home and abroad, and they'll work together to revive Japan. In everyday terms, they're joining forces to push through reforms that have been stuck for years. The tone is serious, almost wartime. They focus on two pillars: national security realism and growth-friendly economics. They want a government that moves faster, spends smarter, and cuts waste. Think of it as solid government, smoother pipelines, fewer leaks. On geopolitics, Japan says it'll stay self-reliant while keeping the U.S. alliance at its core, contributing to regional stability. Translation: stronger defense posture, closer U.S. ties, and a realistic approach to threats. They're saying, the world's gotten rougher, and our budgets need to reflect that. On the economy, the coalition insists growth, not wishful thinking, is what raises living standards. They promise a responsible expansionary policy, meaning yes to smart spending and investment, but also a crackdown on waste and ineffective subsidies. It's the classic two-handed move. Open the spending faucet with one hand, tighten the belt with the other. We'll see which hand wins when the bills arrive. Let's get into the details. Economy and fiscal policy first. They'll finally end the temporary gasoline surtax. Yes, the one that's been around longer than some fashion trends. They'll fast-track relief on electricity and gas bills and pass a supplementary budget to fund it. This isn't UBI. It's a short-term inflation cushion. They also want to make the tax system more inflation-proof. That means adjusting basic deductions automatically as prices rise, so inflation doesn't quietly shrink your paycheck. They're also designing refundable tax credits, direct support through the tax code instead of new bureaucracies. They'll review all special tax breaks and subsidies, killing the low-impact ones, and they plan to set up something like a government efficiency bureau to hunt waste. If it has real authority, ministries will feel the pressure. And here's a big headline. They're considering making groceries tax-free for 2 years. That's a bold move. They also say no to one-time cash handouts. They prefer consistent, rule-based relief. My take? This section is meant to calm households while reassuring markets. Short-term fiscal boost, medium-term discipline. If they follow through, expect a bit of consumption support and a policy mix that's friendly to risk assets as long as the BOJ stays patient. Social Security is next, Japan's toughest puzzle. They're targeting fairness by income, meaning people who can pay more will. They'll revisit drug costs and adjust insurance structures to lighten the load on working generations. They plan to make real progress this fiscal year based on existing multi-party agreements. They'll hold regular bilateral meetings to keep reforms moving, and regular is the key word here. They outline 13 major reforms to finalize in principle this year and design next year. In short, modernize financing, unify systems, make incentives fairer, and get more results per yen. They'll even redefine what elderly means so those who want to keep working can, and they'll protect rural healthcare as populations fall. They'll also give emergency help to hospitals hit by inflation, basically fixing leaks while renovating the roof. Now the sensitive topics: the imperial household, the constitution, and family law. For imperial succession, they'll stick with the male line tradition, but propose allowing male line descendants to be adopted into the imperial family. That means changing the imperial house law in 2026, a conservative but practical fix. For the Constitution, they'll form a joint drafting council on revising Article 9, the National Security Clause, and add emergency powers. They want text ready by fiscal 2026, plus rules for a future referendum. They're building the machinery, so constitutional change isn't just talk. It's a real process. On family names, they'll keep the one family, one name rule, but allow people to legally use their maiden names socially. A compromise, flexible, but still traditional. And here's a culture war flashpoint. They'll criminalize insulting or destroying Japan's national emblem. Expect heated debate when that hits the diet. Foreign and security policy. They'll update Japan's main defense strategies earlier than planned, strengthen the U.S. alliance, and even explore a next-gen submarine with long-range missile capability. That's a major evolution for Japan. They'll simplify SDF command structures, loosen defense export rules, and modernize ranks and pay. They're also planning a pension-like system to attract recruits. But the quiet revolution is intelligence. They'll build a full architecture by 2027. A National Intelligence Bureau, a foreign intelligence service, new training institutions, and laws for counterintelligence and foreign agent transparency. It's a huge leap from information-aware to information-capable. Energy policy. They'll restart nuclear plants with safety first, invest in next-gen reactors, and push geothermal and marine energy. The idea is pragmatic. Mix reliability with innovation. Food and land use. All farmland should be productive. They'll back climate-resilient systems like plant factories and aquaculture. They'll also regulate mega solar farms by 2026 to protect landscapes and communities. Economic security. They'll strengthen undersea cable networks in the Nansei Islands. That's clear defense logic. Population and foreign nationals. They call population decline Japan's biggest problem. They'll create a population decline task force this year, a population strategy in 2026, and take a strict but fair stance on foreign residents, tightening oversight while supporting those who follow the rules. They'll also screen foreign investments more carefully and control sensitive land purchases. Education. Starting April 2026, high school tuition and elementary school lunches will be free. They'll reform universities to match population trends and boost research funding. Kakeni. That's both family relief and a nod to innovation. Governance and political reform. They want better crisis management, including a legal backup capital system in case Tokyo goes down, and more decentralization. On politics, they'll review corporate donations, possibly cut lower house seats by 10%, and rethink the entire election system. The message? Leaner, cleaner politics. So what does it all mean if you live in Japan? Short-term relief for bills and education, smarter taxes, and maybe fairer healthcare. If you invest in Japan, clearer tailwinds for defense, energy, infrastructure, health tech, and science. If you follow policy, Japan is quietly building serious institutions, especially in intelligence. Risks? Always. Execution is everything. Social security reform hurts, constitutional changes divide, and nuclear restarts depend on local trust. But if even half of this gets done, Japan becomes a more resilient, investable, confident country. To track progress, watch these 6 things. 1. Gasoline surtax repeal. 2. Supplementary budget mix. 3. Real movement on constitutional drafting. 4. Creation of the National Intelligence Bureau. 5. Reactor restarts. 6. Kakeni funding growth. For markets, expansionary but responsible policy, structural investment, and a patient BOJ. That's bullish for equities, especially industrials, defense, energy, and infrastructure plays. Household demand should get a lift, and fiscal policy will stay supportive. If you've made it this far, congrats. You now speak coalition agreement in plain English. The core idea: build strength, protect essentials, cut waste, and make policy visible in everyday life. It's conservative in roots, pragmatic in methods, and ambitious in timing. The next year and a half will show if it's just talk or real transformation. Thanks for tuning in. If this breakdown helped, give it a like so others who care about Japan and staying awake through policy talk can find it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which reform do you think is the hardest? Social security, the Constitution, or nuclear restarts? And what did I miss? Subscribe for more politics translated into markets, and markets translated back into real life. See you in the next one.